I'm Janelle Slade. Well, high waters and storms are wreaking a bit of havoc across Montana. Power will be out for the next couple days for some residents in Macomb County. We begin in eastern Montana, where the National Weather Service says Wednesday's storm caused damage to chimneys and shingles on homes and even campers. High winds came in with a vengeance and dropped nearly 2 inches of rain during the storm. Hail also caused damage and flooding in Custer County. In Macomb County, the Macomb Electric Cooperative, with help from several other co-ops, is fixing more than 130 power poles on a 25-mile stretch. Now, over in western Montana, if you live along the flood-prone areas of the Clark Fork River near Missoula, you know that flooding season is here. The Clark Fork River west of downtown Missoula spilled over its banks. Homeowners along the flood-prone area, as well as volunteers, are busy filling sandbags and loading them onto trucks in an effort to keep the water from further intruding into the neighborhood and in some cases into basements and homes. Now let's check in with Ed McIntosh to see how our Memorial Day weekend is going to look. Happy Friday, Ed.
Happy Friday. We got a lot going on. We got the flooding in the west. We had the storms over in the east. In fact, estimated winds with those storms around Circle up to 110 miles per hour. But by the time we get to the end of the weekend, we're going to be looking at a lot more sunshine. And this weekend, always the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention says it's Don't Friday. As we start getting out in the sun a lot more, especially by early next week, make sure that you seek shade, wear protective clothing like a wide-brimmed hat and polarized sunglasses, SPF 30 or higher, apply 15 minutes before you go out and every 2 hours after that, and use extra caution around water, sand, and even snow because it'll reflect, and there is snow in the forecast. We'll tell you where in a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, if Glacier National Park was your potential plan over the Memorial Day weekend, you will need to take a different route. The park will reopen in early June, however. The park closed on March 27th due to coronavirus concerns. The park will not reopen on June 1st when phase 2 of reopening in Montana sets in. Now, that's when Yellowstone Park entrances in Montana are slated to open. However, officials say Glacier is on track to open soon after with limited access and visitor services. Well, this year, as we honor the men and women who have served and died for our country, ceremonies will take on a different look and feel. The Montana Veterans Memorial Association in Great Falls has scheduled an online virtual ceremony, but the group will also hold an in-person ceremony in the Electric City. People will be asked to social distance. 96 different new tiles will be added to the memorial to celebrate the day. You can check on the full video on Montana Veterans Memorial Facebook page, and video of the event will be posted following the ceremony online at the Montana Veterans Memorial website. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture released the final documents and decision regarding the Helena Lewis and Clark National Forest new land management program. Now, the plan provides direction for how the Helena Lewis and Clark National Forest is to be managed long term. The National Forest says its final plan will provide nearly 400 new jobs and as much as $5 million in additional labor income. Forest Supervisor Bill Avey says it's been 34 years since it's had a new plan and will go through a 60-day comment period before finalization. Cascade County officials continue to care for animals seized from a property near Sun Prairie earlier this month. Pamela Jo Polieski faces 1 count of aggravated animal cruelty and 4 counts of animal cruelty. The Cascade County Attorney's Office has also filed an animal welfare petition. Polieski disputes all those charges and claims she operates a no-kill shelter that takes in animals who already were in bad health. Now, this is the second major animal abuse case in Cascade County this year. Polieski is set to appear in court on May 26th. If Polieski cannot post bond, the animals could be up for adoption. Well, counterfeit money isn't a novel concept, and as more businesses reopen, employees should be on the lookout for some fake funds. Helena police officials say influxes of counterfeit money comes in waves and can be easily detected with a few simple tips. But it's not just the big bills. People should also check out the small bills.
We see 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. We see all of them. So it's not just the larger bills. We've seen a pretty steady number of all of them. 20s seem to be the most frequent this year, but that can change from any given time.
And police say the Secret Service has a free tool for helping spot different counterfeit bills. Well, some good news this afternoon on the coronavirus front here in Montana. There are no new cases, active cases, released today of COVID-19 across the state. Now, Carroll College will join other Montana schools and start its fall semester early this year. That shift is so students can complete their courses, including finals, before Thanksgiving. Now, classes will begin August 17th and wrap up by November 25th. There will be no fall break this year. That decision to move up classes was made in consultation with county health workers. Many health experts say there's a concern about a reemergence of COVID-19 this fall. By moving up classes, the college can limit some of the large-scale student travel that typically happens during the fall semester.
The safety of our students was number one in that decision. We spent time thinking about what's most important. And by having the students begin early on August 17th and complete before Thanksgiving, we felt was the best decision.
And Carroll is in the process of developing protocols of standards and safety for every aspect of life on campus this fall. The college is expected to reveal those plans mid-June. Missoula County Public Schools have firmed up details for this year's high school graduation ceremonies. The in-town high schools, Big Sky, Hellgate, Sentinel, and Willard, will use Washington Grizzlies Stadium. Now that gives everyone more room, but there will still be limits on 2 guests per graduate, with masks for students and social distancing. Guests are encouraged to do the same.
What we're really hoping is that the messaging that we give to students and parents is that, you know, this is really a privilege this year to be able to do this, because there's lots of other places around the country that are not able to do this, and because of that reason, we really have to take the precautions seriously and abide by social distancing and use of masks and just try to be as careful as possible.
And commencement will happen on June 5th with Saturday the 6th as a bad weather backup. The smaller classes at Sealy Swan can hold ceremonies inside their gyms. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has led many businesses to change their business models or products to help their fellow Montanans. Red Ants Pants in White Sulphur Springs delivered its first shipment of medical gowns this week to the local critical access hospital, Mountain View Medical Center. In late March, the Workwear for Women company began receiving requests to pivot manufacturing efforts toward cloth face coverings and other PPE for frontline workers in rural communities. Collaborating with Bear Paw Outfitters Manufacturing in Billings, Red Ants Pants is now prioritizing PPE for rural healthcare facilities from Hamilton to Plains. Red Ants has had to cancel its yearly music festival this summer due to COVID-19. Well, we have more news ahead on your Friday Noon News, including how 4-H kids across Gallatin County will still be able to show off their animals this fair season. The time now is 12:08. But first, Ed McIntosh is in with your statewide weather forecast.
Then we get into the eastern plains, 60s, 70s. We're starting to push close to 80 degrees by the time we get to Williston, North Dakota. Showers, we've had a few throughout the morning hours, and we'll continue to watch more develop. Scattered showers to the west, but the more active weather is going to be through southern Montana, northern Wyoming as we get later into the day. Once we get into the northern portion of the state, especially those wind-prone areas from Cutbank, Havre, Great Falls, Lewistown, the winds have also started to pick up through the morning hours. Some of those top gusts 40 to 45 miles an hour in the Rocky Mountain front. Much lighter in western and especially eastern Montana, generally less than 15 miles an hour. Although Missoula, Kalispell, from time to time, you've seen some of these wind gusts as well as the next weather system moves in. That's caught up under the southwesterly flow. This is grabbing onto, much as we've seen over the last few days, some of the moisture streaming up, and that's going to result in some higher elevation snow anywhere in the western mountains, but particularly we're going to be watching some of the mountains of south central Montana around West Yellowstone. Some areas could pick up 6 to 12 inches or more of snow through the weekend out of this. That'll add to the snowpack. And by the time we get into Saturday, as we look into extreme eastern Montana and the western Dakotas, we're looking at the possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms there. So we've got the southwesterly winds bringing up that moisture feed. That's going to start to affect southern Montana, northern Wyoming with more clouds through the afternoon, then drag in those showers and a few thunderstorms to go along with it. But The setup for today isn't for the kind of severe weather that we've seen earlier in the week. More general thunderstorms. Certainly some small hail and strong winds could be expected around thunderstorms, but not the severe damaging winds and hail that we've seen. Now, the eastern plains very warm out ahead of this cold front that's moving across the region, but that will really push the temperatures up, especially in the Dakotas for later in the day. But it also opens the door for more of that moisture through southern Montana, northern Wyoming, the higher elevation snow showers. This trough digs in through the weekend, pushing rain showers back up and across the region. For western Montana, you're looking at off and on showers and some higher elevation snow, especially once we get a little closer to Butte. It'll be overall cooler tomorrow in eastern Montana, but that threat of strong to severe storms starts to pop up over into the Dakotas. And then the whole thing wants to shift away a bit on Sunday. Still some scattered showers, but we're going to be an overall little quieter weather pattern, and a high pressure ridge builds in, bringing warming and drying conditions by Memorial Day. Mainly 50s to a few low 60s in central and western Montana. Things become more active through southern Montana, northern Wyoming, looking at showers, isolated thunderstorms. There's where we see some high elevation snow in the blue shaded areas. Then overnight temperatures drop down into the 30s to the west and 40s across the eastern plains. Again, now you can really pick out the snow with the potential of rain showers across southwest Montana, and we'll keep churning that up as we get into tomorrow. The temperatures are going to be cooler across the eastern plains, but still 50s and 60s towards the west. So we'll continue to watch at least some chance of showers for you scattered around Kalispell, Missoula, Great Falls, and Helena, dealing more with the wind for today, and then starting to warm up by the time we start getting into Sunday afternoon. Butte and Bozeman, scattered showers and a few isolated thunderstorms around Butte, a little higher elevation snow. It's warmer, much warmer across the eastern plains today. There's a look at the weather. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, 4-H kids across Yellowstone County are pretty lucky that Montana Fair is still going to happen. But across the state, many fairs are being canceled, leaving hundreds of kids without a chance to show their animals. But 4-H kids are smart, and MTN's Cody Boyer shows us what they're doing instead.
Hands for larger service. It's part of what the 4-H always says. And in the middle of the pandemic, it's something that they're hitting home in their own way.
Even though the event will look different, they're still preparing to put on a show.
4-H is all about tradition. When nothing about a global pandemic is normal, what then?
Well, there's definitely been a lot of unknowns.
Janae Godin is the Gallatin County 4-H agent, working with 114 volunteers and 647 kids and their projects.
Across the state, all the 4-H agents also communicated throughout the time, so we were kind of piggybacking on what other agents were doing.
Kelly Pavlik in Manhattan grew up doing 4-H, a tradition that she now shares with her 5 kids.
What's your favorite part?
Playing with them.
4-H is hands-on. The advice was please no hands-on, please no meeting, please no anything. So really some leaders have become really creative on how to educate the kids.
Godin says while fair cancellations may be on the table, the 4-H won't be stopped.
Our kids logged in and they did their speeches and presentations virtually, and it was amazing.
Virtual options from showing rabbits, pigs, steers, and chickens to robotics, baking, and beyond. They're making it happen thanks to each volunteer.
They took the reins mostly, finding ways to still meet.
Auctions may look like this too, depending on the state's phases.
I think it is important that they come together. It's a day of celebration for our buyers as well, where they get to see people they haven't seen for a year.
The kids are still able to do the hands-on on the other side of the camera, the other side of the computer, and apply it to their projects.
So the mission remains, sticking true to the 4-H pledge, health to better living, for their club, their community, their country, and their world.
It's a team effort of finding ways to make it work.
In Gallatin County, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Very nice. Thanks so much, Cody. Well, your latest ag news is next with Russell Nimitz, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
This report from the Montana Ag Network.
Hi everybody, it's time for your Farm and Ranch news. Well, hey, it looks like the USDA has announced $1 billion in loan guarantees for rural businesses. along with farmers and ranchers. And the department also has increased options for producers to defer loan payments to the Farm Service Agency. Now, USDA's Rural Development has set up $1 billion in loan guarantees for rural businesses to help with capital needs during this ongoing coronavirus pandemic. And farmers and ranchers who aren't eligible for traditional FSA loans could also be eligible, they say, for the new loan program dubbed the USDA Business and Industry CARES Act program. FSA will broaden the use of the disaster set-aside loan provision normally used in the wake of natural disasters to allow farmers and ranchers with USDA ag loans who are affected by COVID-19 and are determined eligible to have their next payment set aside. Of course, for more details, please give your local FSA office a call today. In some other news, the University of Wyoming's extension entomologist Scott Shell is now warning landowners across our region to be on the lookout for a possible high grasshopper year. He said mid-May through June is the best time to check for grasshoppers hatching in large numbers to help prevent them from causing extensive damage. Grasshopper outbreaks are kind of difficult to prevent when spring weather is favorable to their survival, and conditions that may have reduced grasshopper predators or even pathogens are beyond the landowner's control. Shell says good grazing management, though, to reduce bare ground is still one possible prevention method, and that's because bare ground favors some pest grasshopper species. He also suggests contacting your local county weed and pest control district for other grasshopper treatment type options. Well, stay with us. We have more ag news coming your way. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, common grocery store items like eggs and meat and even baked goods have seen their largest month-over-month spike in price since February of 1974. Overall, American consumers paid about 2.6% for more groceries in April than what they did in March. Egg prices rose over 16% in April compared to March, and animal proteins as a whole increased by over 4%. Meanwhile, baked goods were up nearly 3% month over month, while fruits and vegetables were up 1.5%. Of course, supply chain issues and increased demand are still cited as the reasons for the recent price increases. And finally today, the Montana Department of Livestock is proposing a change to the boundary of the designated surveillance area for brucellosis. The proposed administrative rule change is in response to the discovery of 2 brucellosis-exposed elk in the Ruby Mountains outside of the current DSA boundary. Now, the boundary adjustment, they say, will help to ensure that cattle and domestic bison at risk of exposure to infected wildlife are included in the disease surveillance efforts. Of course, wild elk and Yellowstone National Park bison are still the last known reservoirs of brucellosis in the entire country. Additional information and the proposed rule can be found on the department's website, and comments can be submitted via email. Also, keep in mind that you can submit your comments, but you have to do so no later than the close of business on June 18th. Well, that's a look at your farm and ranch news. Have a great day.
Thanks, Russell. Happy Friday. And now one more look at our forecast with meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
We've got showers in western Montana. We're not going to see a lot of rain for you around Kalispell, Missoula, but rain and snow more around the Butte area. Great Falls, Helena, you're dealing with some wind today. Temperatures will begin to warm back up as we get into Sunday and carry right on into Memorial Day as well. For southwest Montana, outside of Bozeman, around West Yellowstone, looking at snow potential, but even Bozeman, you could see some snow showers around the area first thing tomorrow, certainly around Butte, and Glendive and Billings seeing warmer temperatures today, but more unsettled with rain showers and thunderstorms starting tonight.